Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue is still spinning on those ones and twos. Fam,
Give me a second to share some of this, fam.
Where were you at 6 o'clock in the ante-meridian this morning as we were getting the blah 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 Charlie Brown speech from the CDC advisory committee on what to do moving forward over here? It was a bunch of malarkey. You missed
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I don't think I missed much though. That's the thing. Those are hours of your life you will never
Never
get
get
back.
back. But we did stream it, and you can go check the restream if you want to. Trust me, a lot of mainstream media will be digging back to, well, the advisory committee said this, and
Yeah.
they talked about that, and CNBC actually was streaming it on YouTube. So believe you me, they're going to dig back into that information over there and try to present it as fact. Let me just say this much: it was pretty. When I say it was malarkey, it's because there was no dissenting voices there, no adversary opinions on what was going on. It was just an echo chamber of 14 doctors who eventually, when they had the opportunity to vote whether they should go forth with pushing these vaccines on the public, on the unvaccinated, decided to do so in the fashion of 14-0. There was a little time for public comments. Very, very little. People had 3 minutes. It was a Zoom call, of course, as well. And at the end of the day, the thing that was most shocking is the fact that they really didn't even talk about the data on the Delta variant until after they had voted on whether or not to push the vaccines. And it was still the same mentality that you get from the mainstream media, big pharma, the White House, government. It's the unvaccinated who are putting us all at risk. No talking about the data, no talking about early alternatives, no talking about any of the stuff that we had talked about before, which is kind of crazy, which we're going to get into today as well, because there are some things that are just mind-blowing. Obviously, I am not a doctor, and you're not a doctor. We make the joke all the time. You're a certified TV doctor, but there are certain things that, even when doctors are speaking of, you go, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. A lot of that today didn't make sense, and a lot of things we will talk about. But besides that, fam, we have that going on as a great distraction. New Orleans has been hit, or Nolens, depending on how you say it, has been hit with a hurricane, one of the worst of all times. That is going on, but
With an already crumbling infrastructure. I mean,
yes,
they can blame it on COVID and the unvaccinated all they want, but the fact is America has a very, very shitty infrastructure where we're like depaving roads all over the United States, where we're literally losing bridges, losing infrastructure as other countries like China are actually building.
yeah,
And even Russia, like, completely just knocking us out of the park
with infrastructure,
with
yeah,
infrastructure. And it's like, they want, of course they're going to use the pandemic and say, oh, if only the unvaxxed got themselves vaccinated, everything would be peachy. But the reality is that we already had a dire situation economically and with our infrastructure before this quote unquote pandemic hit. And so if we had been better prepared, if people had healthcare, if we had put money in our infrastructure, things would be different. But it is obviously,
yeah.
They don't give a shit.
They don't. But first of all, we really never built back New Orleans after Katrina. It's still been in
Never.
dire
People
straits. Never
still
really.
lived in tents, FEMA
Yeah,
camps.
it was terrible. A lot of people had to move. They were able to gentrify a big area of it. A lot of rich investors came in, bought up those areas. They still had the same problems with the dam today. It bust, flooded areas, same thing. But fam, don't worry. We have an infrastructure bill coming, and the squad is holding the
Right.
establishment Democrats
For the
at
reconciliation bill.
Yes, and how many infrastructure bills have we had? We showed this last week, but everyone from the last Trump didn't get one, but Obama got one, Clinton got one, Bush got one, the bridge to nowhere. All of them got infrastructure bills, and yet our roads still look like crap. Our infrastructure is for shit, and it just stuck its ugly head out again today when Nolens got hit with an earthquake. But let's talk about this Biden situation. Let's talk about Afghanistan, fam, because you put together a good folder today when it comes to this situation. Some just mind-blowing, statements coming out of the press secretary today and what's going on. Fam, I think we called it. We said that they will not eventually pull out. We shouldn't become a Biden bro. They will just privatize this war, and they will manufacture consent to stay there and keep the killing going. No, fam?
Yeah, so just first of all, let me say, guys, get in on the YouTube, get in on the Rokfin after the YouTube, because we're going to be discussing some very important things, some revelations from doctors, from one particular doctor, and also from the WHO, who unleashed a very, very nice guideline for how to have these things that are basically passports. And so we're going to be talking about that. You don't want to miss this conversation. It's really, really important. While you all get on in, we're being extremely like throttled and censored. You know, normally we get so many more people on. I know this is a little bit later than our usual time, but it's important that you pay attention to the next two sections on Rokfin only, because unfortunately we can't put them on YouTube, and you know why. So regarding the Biden administration's disaster, the Biden administration, as you know, bombed did actually, excuse me, a targeted drone strike on ISIS K, or what they suspected to be the areas where ISIS K was. And in that destruction, in that targeted bombing, they somehow targeted children, many of whom died during this time. So let me go ahead and is that in order? I believe so. Okay, I guess so. So we're just put on Barack Obama's quote. I was just gonna read the first tweet. He said he was heartbroken, and my whole point in showing this is like you're gonna see the focus on only the American soldiers as usual, and that's not because they care about American soldiers. It's because they want you to be okay with war. So, like so many of you, Michelle and I were heartbroken to hear about the terrorist attack outside the Kabul airport that killed and wounded so many U.S. service members, as well as Afghan men, women, and children. As president, nothing was more painful than grieving with the loved ones of Americans who gave their lives serving our country. As President Biden said, these service members are heroes who have been engaged in a dangerous, selfless mission to save the lives of others. So that's all I really wanted to focus on. But he's basically like doing the same thing from the Democratic Party and the whole administration, is to say these service members gave their lives, they sacrificed so much to save a few people. This is the same story we've been told for decades now, like at least in Afghanistan for over 20 years now. It doesn't stick anymore. It's not sticking with the veterans who are still there. It's not sticking with the family of the veterans, which is where some of the criticism is coming. It's not sticking with the vast majority of the American public, yet they're still trying to paint the same narrative that, the veterans. It's not sticking, number one, because we know of the millions of dead like people in the Middle East that we have caused, from people in Iraq, from people to Afghanistan, from the supplying of weapons to Yemen or to Saudi Arabia was destroyed Yemen, to the supplying of weapons and also weapons deals and money to Israel and what they've done to Palestinians, to what we did in Libya that caused the Libyan slave trade. All these things we know now, and they're still trying the same strategy. They either think the vast majority of Americans are too stupid, or they just think like regardless, people will still fall in line, which is the battle we have on right now, right?
Yeah.
But that's like their focus is the soldiers, poor soldiers. We care about them. They're heroes. We're gonna honor them. And the Afghan people who died are just in the back burner. But also like, oh yes, we feel bad for them, even though we are in a country we shouldn't have been in the first fucking place, and we should have fucking left a long time ago. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's just say that they had that. That's how bad things are going for Joe Biden right now, and the thought process of like, hey, we need to get rid of Joe Biden, but what do we get? We get Kamala Harris, right? Okay.
Right.
So they had to go back to the bullpen and say, Barack,
Yep.
get your shoes on, get back in there, man, get your swimsuit. We need you, like Thornton Mellon calling him back in because things are so friggin' bad. The thing that's disturbing me about that is that he didn't get ratioed the way he should get ratioed, because we still have a lot of these, once again, bleeding heart liberals, these synthetic left that no matter who it is, if it's one of their idols, they're going to get behind them.
Yeah.
They'll even get behind the idea of war because it's Barack Obama. And the thing that is also even more disturbing is the fact that last week when Joe Biden was pulling out and supposedly out of Afghanistan, you had so many of these shit libs going, oh my God, the women, we got to stay there for the women. It's so bad. We have to do it and stuff. I mean, what is your thought process of what goes on when it comes to war? You know what I'm saying? That the American lives that Barack Obama was just talking about, do you think that we go there like we're Captain America and we're just spreading truth and justice? No, war is bad. The worst conditions that could be created for women
is through war. Exactly.
Bottom line.
Exactly. And again, there's a video with Biden and Jill Biden, honoring or watching the ceremony of U.S. service members killed in Kabul. Again, this is what they do. They have to do this whole PR show, you know. But I wanted to point out, Barack Obama has a gall to really get on Twitter and say anything. I mean, he is a warmonger. He's a droner in chief. He took us from 2 to 7 wars. I mean, the fact that they are relying on this guy. And Pasta, I gotta say, the reason you see a lot of liberals on Twitter is because they've censored their critics. They censor the majority of the people on the right.
Yep.
They censor the independent voices. They
Yep.
censor anybody that really like has any
Yep.
sort of dissension to the current administration. So obviously you're going to see a lot less. And a lot of these liberals too, they pay for bots. So I've noticed like there's a lot of those bots making excuses for big pharma, making excuses for the military industrial complex, making excuses for all these people constantly, and you can tell because they have new accounts that they don't tweet at all. They're just formed within months, so that gives the illusion that these people's there's so many of them. But I actually believe that there are a lot more of people who have realized this. They're just consumed or they're not online. And I think we have to start looking at those people who are outside of the Twitter sphere of the liberals, because they make it seem like there's more of them. But there's a reason why this country lost to Donald Trump in 2016. There's a reason why they've had to rig elections. There's a reason why all this happens. And it's because they're losing credibility and they're losing ground. But they just create the illusion that there's still some sort of powerful party.
Yeah, I think a lot of the common sense left has been kicked off or been, shadow banned or shut down too as well. But I have a feeling, fam, at this point that a lot of people are just checking out. They're just completely done with politics as a whole. They don't think it's going to change. Not only the fact that they consume with how are they going to live moving forward with this whole tsunami, no pun intended over there, Johnny, of evictions that will be coming down the pipeline, but the fact that a lot of their jobs are gone as well. So I think a lot of people are checked out, and then if they have their mind set anywhere, it's how am I going to survive?
Yeah, yeah. I just think a lot of those people aren't online, so
Yeah.
it seems like those people, the people that dominate the narrative,
I agree.
are the liberals. So
Yeah, I do agree.
I just wanted to reemphasize that the focus, of course, is on the soldiers, and this is from the New York Post. The identities of the 13 U.S. service members who were killed by an ISIS-K suicide bomber outside the Kabul airport while helping to oversee the evacuation of thousands of Americans and Afghan allies have been confirmed by authorities. And they released the names of the dead, including 11 Marines, 1 Navy corpsman, and 1 Army soldier. So that's what happens. And you can go through. We're not going to go through, but there's like a list of them, right? And this is what the media is doing, right? Obviously, it's awful that you send. Look how young some of these people are. 20 years old. 20. These people weren't even born when we went to war. I mean, this is what's irritating to me.
They weren't even born when we went in there.
You care about these people losing their lives. They don't give a shit. They just they don't give a shit, like, at all, right? Look, these people weren't even born when we went into Afghanistan, some of them. And this whole illusion that we're just pulling out and we're done, that's it. Crystal Ball said something really stupid today, like on a tweet. I can't believe we're finally out. It's like, stop. And like, they just look like a bunch of idiots now because we just literally droned people. And now we send these soldiers to die for rich men's wars. That's what we do. That's what continues to happen. A lot of people join the military because they don't know what to do career-wise. They don't want to have debt. They don't want to have debt. My sister thought about joining the military because she didn't want to have student debt.
Exactly.
That's like literally one of the number one reasons people join the military. So don't tell me that, these people give a shit about. Well, they don't give, as long as there's a need to avoid some sort of debt, to avoid, paying for college and paying for other things. These kids are going to continue being, just scouted for war. And by the way, they come back fucked. They come back
mentally,
with mental, like, PTSD. They come back completely just destroyed from what they've seen, because the what war does to people is just unimaginable unless you go into it, right?
By the way, when Michael Moore, before he turned into a complete shitlib, he made a movie called Fahrenheit 9/11, and inside that movie, one of his documentaries, they followed a woman who was from a small town, and she encouraged young students in high school to go to the military. Yeah. Why? When you get out, you're going to get X amount of dollars for college, so you won't be in debt. Your parents can't afford it, whatnot. So go to the military. Even to the fact she encouraged her own son to go. Well, her own son died fighting one of these wars. He went to Iraq, whatnot. And then they followed this woman, this whole kind of change she went through of how she was encouraging young people to go to the war because it was like, you'll be safe. You'll serve 4 years. You'll get yourself $100,000 Navy college fund or the Army college fund, and you'll be fine. But everything has changed now because we have this mass amount of, what's the word I'm looking for? Charged to war. We're like, ever since the 9/11, we've uber upped the ante when it comes to going to other countries and fighting war. More and more kids are diving every day. But once again, it's like a class divide. They have this poor class, these kids who don't have any money. They force them to go into the military to fight these wars.
Look how
Otherwise,
young they
they'll
are.
have no education, nothing. And you can see these
They're
kids.
20. They're like the average age. You saw most of them, right? 20 years old. Yeah. So, well, where do you think these people come from? Do you think these people that died come from like upper class families? Majorly, they don't. They come from working class families, and you can also see now that it's a lot of people of color too. A lot of people of color. So yes, there's intersectionality in the military that goes to die and then also kill other people as well. So, I mean, that's something to be proud of, America. So I'm going to briefly go over what she said. 52 minutes of my life I won't get back. Watching Jen Psaki, White House press secretary, giving a briefing. She's going to be back tomorrow on another briefing, but she pretty much said that the U.S. soldiers who died were to be honored for their quote-unquote sacrifice and refer to the drone strikes that killed innocent children and civilians as a success. Johnny, if you want to go ahead and play that part of the video, and then I'll go over what other things she said.
Drone strikes. It seems that we're witnessing these happen, with more frequency. Obviously, we have the, over-the-horizon ability to get this done if we've got the intelligence to do it. But my question is, why is it that we weren't able to use similar action to prevent the attack that happened on Thursday? And then part of that is, because we now are, hearing reports of how these have been carried out, one of the drones had to fly 8 hours, I think, from UAE. Is there any concern that we're limited in our ability to respond in a timely manner if we've got 8 hours of flight time and then they can only hang out over the target for like 4 or 5 hours before they've got to turn around and go back? Is there a future sort of ongoing worry that we're going to be behind the 8 ball again?
Well, first I would say the fact that we have had 2 successful strikes confirmed by CENTCOM tells you that our over-the-horizon capacity works and is working. In terms of the specific threats, what we had with respect to the Kabul airport, we of course had been warning about for days, which was
okay. So
wow, fam. The way the reporter frames the question just to begin with. Hey, will we be held back from killing people, fam?
Right.
Come on now. Is this going to be a problem now?
Imagine the kind of questions these people are asking versus the kind of question we would ask. Like, are you? Somebody finally asked, mention something, not even that compassionately, but just kind of like, so is Biden, also sorry about the civilians he killed, including kids? I was waiting for that one. It didn't come till the end. But she was like, they basically brushed it off and like, yeah, of course he is. That she barely mentioned it. But yeah, notice how the journalist is like, so are we like, are we going to be behind the 8 ball because these weapons take like 8 hours? Like what? Like what? Are you serious? Like those are the kind of questions you have to ask, I guess, in order to be allowed to ask questions, because we wouldn't be allowed to ask questions, I'll tell you that. And it's really scary. And how she just says, she ups it, right? She's like, oh yeah, no, first of all, we were successful. We just had 2 successful drone strikes where we killed innocent Afghani people, more than we have already killed in the last 20 years. And also, of course, U.S. soldiers, sorry about them. They're heroes. Like, it's like, okay, cool. Like, and it's just disgusting. And she also later on emphasized, or I think actually before that, emphasized that Joe Biden will not be extending the unemployment benefits. And she mentioned that in spite of the Delta variant, they need to do what's best for the economy right now. And he's also not going to present an extension to the eviction moratorium to Congress. For instance, he could present a demand. He could say, to Congress, we need to extend the eviction moratorium. Can you guys vote on it? He's not going to do that. Instead, she said he would sign it if Congress presented it.
They're
So
on
again,
vacation, fam.
so all the people saying, well, what can the squad do? present your fucking argument then. Present it. Where's the squad? Present the demand to President Biden. Supposedly, he said he would sign it. Now, you can talk about Mitch McConnell and the Republicans and the centrists and all this bullshit, whatever. Convince them that's what you're there to do, legislate, hold the 101 people in the Progressive Caucus, do fucking something. Now, because what these people do is they play the blame game. Oh, no, that's not on us. We didn't know that the Supreme Court would do that. Oh, no, the Supreme Court is acting on the legality, which it actually is. Constitutionally, the CDC doesn't have jurisdiction to legalize. So then Biden's like, no, I'm not gonna present it to Congress. That's their job. You see what I'm saying? So they fucking like play around, like throw the ball around to see who wants to catch blame for it, but they're not doing anything about it. And we already talked about what else they're doing. So they're also getting criticisms, by the way, from the family of the vets for how this happened, who were the people who were left behind. Now, if this can be tied to some form of intelligence or some sort of bullshit, that would be like, that would really do something. But there's not enough evidence to really fully say that. You know, we spoke about it with Blumenthal. Like there's really, but the fact is that ISIS-K and the Taliban are enemies. So trying to suggest there was some sort of cooperation doesn't make any sense.
I want to digress for 1 second back to this thought process of this attack being successful. You know what I'm saying? And I often think about the way this is portrayed in the media nowadays too as well. Over the last 20-something odd years since this shit's been going on, the way they've kind of like turned it into like entertainment on the TV when it comes to our war, and we're so distant from it, right? It's all the poor people who are going to fight these wars. Mainstream media, it's not. It really doesn't affect their everyday lives. Those latte liberals who can live through this, it's okay. I even think about the time when Donald Trump dropped the mother of all bombs on Afghanistan, and it was being praised throughout the media. Even Sanjay Gupta said, "This is today Donald Trump became president." Now, and I say this,
Afghanistan?
On Afghanistan. This is when Donald Trump first started. And I say that to say this because what does it say about society when we can just take this information off that we had a successful attack when bombs kill women and children every single time, and we become so desensitized to it, right? What does it say about us to the fact that we will constantly allow the military-industrial complex to blow up this planet, killing innocent women and children, and we do nothing and say nothing, where the Democrats are so okay with this Democratic Party running shit, and it doesn't make a difference when it comes to the left side, right side, they both endorse war. What does it say about us as a society when we can sit here and we won't question the fact that she just said a drone attack that killed 6 women and children, successful?
Right. And it's that whole mentality that, you know, well, we need to get them over there before they get us over here. So and they're trying to push that narrative. Still, these terrorists are dangerous. All of the journalists that were asking pretty much were saying, oh, well, aren't we at risk? Is America at a greater risk now than it was before the takeover of the Taliban? Like that's where the questions that they're asking. That's like literally nobody believes that we're more at risk right now. Us. Like we're not. We're more at risk, you know what? From your fucking government fucking you. Yeah. That's what we're more at risk for. That's who's causing all of our problems here. It's not these people, these poor people. In fact, they're sending poor people to kill other poor people. That's what they're doing. That's the whole point. That's why you cannot be pro-war and say you are a progressive because you're essentially or a worker or a socialist or any of these things, because you're essentially advocating for the murder of other workers, of other working class poor people by working class poor people here. Yeah. And that's why there has to be an international workers movement of people standing up against war as well, because the war machine, imperialism, is capitalism operating at its highest forms. You can argue with me about how you still think capitalism could be used for good, but I'm telling you that the reason we got there is because of that thing getting out of hand, because that's where you're at now. You're not trading dollars and cents anymore. You're trading land, you're trading resources. That's where we're at. And so that, I mean, I have to point out, and we waited to point this out because nobody really talks about the Afghan victims. Yeah. Like, it's time to fucking start talking about these people. It was time 20 years ago. And this is a tweet from Salma Abdelaziz. 9 members of one family, including 6 children. 9 members of one family, including 6 children, were killed in a U.S. drone strike. A brother of one of those killed told a local journalist working with CNN. U.S. Central Command said earlier they were assessing the possibility of civilian casualties. So they don't care, first of all. Also, during her whole speech, Jen said that she kind of washed her hands off of it, saying, oh, well, there might have been other bombs in other areas that caused the explosion that killed these people. We're assessing, there's an ongoing investigation. So even with that, they're not even taking responsibility. They're trying to blame it on the supposed other side, saying that their aggression led to the death of these innocent people, by the way. Just if you watch it, that's what she says.
Yeah.
So,
and once again, to classify this off as successful is pretty disgusting. And something you said earlier today, fam, what you said is they use that mentality, and I think you just said it. We got to kill them over there so we don't kill them over here kind of mentality. That we're doing this in defense is just beyond ridiculous.
Right.
Please.
So CNN says the U.S. carried out a defensive airstrike. Right. And Jen Psaki in her briefing also said this is defense now. So she also answered a journalist's question like, "Oh, if we go under attack, are we going to have enough people to respond?" She's like, "No, we're still going to have consulate members and other people there to make sure that the evacuations are carried right and to make sure that we respond. This is defense now. So now." We're on the defensive, so this is okay to do because we're defending people now. We're defending ourselves. We're defending our interests. Yeah. We're defending blah, blah, blah. But I just want to point out the youngest victim of the airstrike were 2-year-old girls. And according to family members, they found the remains of one of the girls, Malika, in the rubble near their home on Monday. And it's unclear whether she had been inside the vehicle or in the compound when the strike was hit. Yeah, they said they were an ordinary family. They're not ISIS or Daesh. This was a family home where my brothers lived with their families. Relatives of the victims spent Monday at the Kabul hospital identifying remains and separating them into coffins. The 2-year-old girls, Malika and Sumaya, were among the names marked on the coffins. Okay. At the funeral held later in that day, family members shouted, "Death to America." We talked about this with our friend Caleb recently. Death to America, guys, doesn't mean death to you and I, death to the working class of America. No. Death to America means death to the military-industrial complex and the state agencies that go around executing people all over the world in the name of democracy while overthrowing regimes that have been actually helping people. Now, in this case, obviously, the Taliban wouldn't be in power if we didn't fucking help create them. Exactly. But that doesn't change the fact that we are a death cult and like that we are responsible for this. That the people in power are responsible for this, not everyday Americans that have no say in this. Because technically, we should, right? We should technically, I know outside of the MMT world, right? How everything operates. Your tax dollars fund these wars, right? And so that's the whole thing. That's the whole mentality. So if that's the case, then we're being taxed without any sort of say. We're not being represented. This isn't what Americans want. Americans don't want to go blow up little 2-year-old girls. Yeah. You could go ask anybody, Republican, Democrat, whatever. They don't want to go blow up little girls. They just don't know this is happening at this extent.
It's, once again, people have been blinded in the United States. This is what happens on war every day. And, we live in the United States of amnesia. And you can hear people like Jen Psaki say, oh, well, we have this group over here with that group and ISIS-K, and there's, Al-Qaeda-J, and then we have the Taliban. And, well, once again, United States of amnesia. Go back to when we got involved. These groups wouldn't even exist if we didn't get involved in the first place. And we always just kind of wipe ourselves void of anything that we started, anything that we created, and we try to deal with the situation as it is right now without talking about how we got there. The first step is not getting involved, not intervening. And we have to go back to that mentality if we ever had one. It was way before we were on this fucking planet and stuff like that. But that's the problems that are looming here. The fact that they can call this bombing a success is just pure disgusting.
Yeah, so this is what Jen Psaki was saying, that according to whatever U.S. military official,
there we go.
They said that a significant secondary explosion from the vehicle indicated the presence of a substantial amount of explosive material and may have caused additional casualties. Because they're saying now the casualties are 20 people or more. They still haven't found some children that were missing. So they're saying, oh, there might have been, other explosives in the area. So the Taliban actually condemned the strike, saying that the U.S. had violated the country's sovereignty. So that's what's happening on that end. I just wanted to quickly go over that. And I want to show some of the pictures of some of the kids that were killed in this, in this murderous attack. But first, I want to talk about what Misty said, because this is exactly why we talk about press freedoms and censorship, right? Because right now, these 3 children, and there's more children that were murdered in the U.S. drone strike. Daniel Hale exposed the truth about the drone program, right? Like this specific drone program, he is now in jail for doing that. Again, if you speak out against the empire, if you tell the truth, you will be censored, smeared, or imprisoned or killed. That's what the United States is showing, that they have international jurisdiction over the free press, that the military cannot be exposed, and the wrong man is in prison. There she is. There he is, and there's Barack Obama. Barack Obama, who has the audacity to tweet, right, when he should be in prison. And
There's
this is
Daniel Hale.
Barack Obama.
I like that name,
and-
Obama.
But when Republicans used it, it was just like canceled. You couldn't use that anymore. So the next thing I wanted to bring up was the people who were urging everybody to vote for Biden, the people that have been cheering him on. Niko had this tweet. I'm sorry, but if you emotionally bullied people into voting for Biden and the blue wave when the rest of us were fighting for restorative justice, can you please shut the fuck up about the bombs he's now dropping? You've already done enough. The world would be better off without your commentary. And that goes for a lot of the independent media that said, well,
I didn't sign up for this, fam. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
When you voted for him and you pushed for signing for voting for him, you did.
And-
Unfortunately, you know how we know this? It's called history.
Yeah, and again, like to the Kyle Kalinskis, the crystal balls, stop giving him accolades. Like, eat your words. He literally just killed a bunch of innocent people. I mean, his executive power, obviously, right? We know he's not like in charge. I mean, the guy's falling asleep. We're gonna watch, but like the military-industrial complex, the state agencies, all of this, and he's made to look a fool for a specific reason, because they want to get rid of him. They want to push Kamala Harris now. That's what's happening next, right? And we shouldn't have been in there in the first place, guys. Like, but they were calling this guy the most anti-war president in modern history. So to me, it's like it's beyond ridiculous. And I have a couple more things I think about.
Do you know how
Daniel
absurd
Hale.
that sounds, fam? The most anti-war president in our modern time. Do you know how absurd that sounds?
I know the bar is low, but
I
no.
mean, God.
So on August 29th, it marked a month since Daniel Hale was transferred to the jail he was in before his next move. He says he's sorry he can't be in touch the way he wants to be with everybody while he's in this holding pattern. He sends solidarity to incarcerated people in Louisiana now. Daniel's housing unit in Virginia was also without air conditioning this weekend. There is no ventilation. Temperatures rose above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. His crime, of course, is to expose the U.S. drone strike program. And here is the pictures of these kids I wanted to show. I think I put the wrong tweet. She had a picture of the kids. Hold on, let me see.
There
if
it
I
is.
can bring it
Hey,
up.
Johnny's
There it
got it
is.
up.
There it is. That one. And those are some of the pictures of the kids that were killed. I mean, this
Successful,
is like
fam.
successful drone strikes. I thought they were supposed to be targeted. Like, what exactly are you targeting? And meanwhile, Sleepy Joe. I mean, Trump really gave him a great name. So I don't know if did they remove this tweet? I wonder. Oh no, there it is.
It's there. There are the children, by the way, on the successful drone strike. Successful. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. This is something that Daniel Hale exposed. They do this all the time. They kill children all the time.
Even when it's not in the media.
That's the whole thing about the whole drone strike program, is that it kills way more civilians than the other method, right? Which was a lot of times it was U.S. soldiers hitting a laser on the ground, and you have a laser guided missiles. Now they're trying to kill people from thousands of miles away, and it's just not good at all.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they're going to be killing a lot of peasants anyways, but now you're killing children at a crazy rate, and this is going to be going on for quite some time. And today, once again, what do? They just kind of sell it off as successful. It's disgusting.
And meanwhile, Sleepy Joe, I just feel like every day we live in a fucking cartoon. I mean, it just seems like every day there's another ridiculous thing happening. And Joe Biden apparently fell asleep during his meeting with Israeli occupation Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. We know this guy is worse than Netanyahu. I mean, he's just insane. And there's, the whole, everybody was, mocking Joe Biden, laughing at him. And I think that's what they're trying to do, right? We don't have to, you can just play it, but, yeah. I just, I wanted to show, this is comical but it's also like, how long is he going to be president for, right? Like the next move is, Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris is extremely dangerous. She's extremely disliked too. So by all means, like if, we don't have fair elections in this country, so they're going to have to try really hard to keep that woman in power because people don't like her. Like the left doesn't like her, the right despises her. Like,
independents don't like her. Californians don't like her.
Californians don't like her.
Nobody likes her.
She is like literally one of the most disliked people. Like it's crazy, And
I really think this is unfair. Joe Biden thought he had his diaper, his
mask.
His mask over his eyes. He didn't realize that it was over just his mouth. So he's sitting there just thinking that he had cover. That's not fair.
Yeah.
That's not fair at all.
And I just want to close that segment by reemphasizing, Americans never really talk about in media, right? Talk about the casualties in Central Asia and West Asia, what we call the Middle East and the Central Asia. They never talk about the casualties of these kids and women and civilians and young men and all these people that die. Like, it's always like, let's focus on the soldiers. Not that the soldiers don't matter, but that's the whole point. Why is it there not an anti-war movement? The anti-war movement was so strong before. And, that was back when the media was still not 100% bought out. When you had some sort of representation. Now that's all gone. And this is why any sort of socialist, leftist, workers movement, whatever you want to call it, a workers movement has to seize the communication, has to seize the internet, has to seize the way to get videos and expose things to people, because people just don't know. Some of them, they're too caught up, and that's why we do what we do, but also we have such a hard time because we're constantly censored. And if we could occupy the same type of influence and money and leverage that somebody like CNN gets to occupy, things would be very different. Not just us, but all of independent media. So again, it's extremely, extremely important to continue supporting independent media, because we're the ones that are showing this stuff. We're the only ones that are really, really out there promoting this and talking about imperialism and talking about the consequences of that. It's very, very few of us. It's hard to do because it's a very nuanced situation. It's not just about choosing your team blue or your team red. It's about looking at the intricacies of history and everything else.
Yeah. And the questions are, where do we go from here? What's going to happen in Afghanistan? What's going to happen with the war moving forward? I don't suspect we'll have a complete, clean, full pullout. We've obviously seen they're already dipping their toe back in. So who knows what's going to go on. And at the end of the day, I think Fee hit it on the nose. Biden was never ending the war. He was only privatizing it. And we'll have our mercenaries in there to keep our invested interest for the military-industrial complex. Money will be spent there. Remember, the budget didn't go down. The budget went up. Even under Biden, it's going to continue to go up. That's where the majority of our new appropriated money goes to. Over 50% of it goes to the war machine, and it's quite disgusting. I think the people are asleep, and they need to wake up. These children getting killed today and then you have the press secretary for the President of the United States saying it was a success. Success was quite disgusting. Reeve Barker, thank you so much for the Super Ray contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch, fam. Trey Wright is here, of course. We love you, Trey. Kyle Kuklinski and Crystal Ball and Omar said the war is over and have yet not to mention the drone strikes or the dead children. These cuck assholes need to stop gaslighting us all.
How rich of Ilhan Omar, not to mention that, right? Ilhan Omar, out of all people. Really? I haven't heard much from the squad about this. What?
Where's Cory Bush
Because they're
going
not
crazy?
anti-war. That's how you know if somebody's serious or not. Are you an anti-imperialist, or are you just gonna say nice things about domestic policy and never actually pursue it, and then stay mum when it comes to foreign policy issues?
Yes, but that's also too a ploy by the left as well as the progressives who refuse to get involved with foreign policy. It was one of our beefs with these people. We'd like, guys, how come you guys don't want to learn anything about foreign policy? Well, we got to take care of domestic problems over here, and once we take care of them over here, then we can worry about what's going on overseas. Racism is one of the worst problems in the world in the United States. I said, well, what could be more racist than going around bombing indigenous people in their homeland? No answer for it. Yeah, but now we have this kind of woke culture where we have to stay over there for the women, fam. It's about women's right? This boutique synthetic left that doesn't know what the fuck's going on need to take their head out of their ass. You just had the press secretary for the United States president say it was a success killing children today. Sarah M. Fam, love ya. But as a fellow New Yorker, when I lived down in the South, I learned we be saying New Orleans like damn Yankees. It rhymes with New War wins.
Yeah, Pasta's from New York. He said it. Nobody says New Orleans.
It's Nolans. My bad. Apologize. Nolans. Michael Ungerleiter. Ungie. And this is in quotes, a poison pill is a tool used by companies to avoid a hostile takeover. While a lot of us want to see Biden removed, unfortunately, he has his own personal and very effective poison pill to avoid impeachment. He even has a name for the pill. It's called Kamala. Yeah. And it is a poison pill. It's because people are like, we got to get rid of Biden. Kamala Harris will be the president. Maybe we should leave him in there.
A weekend at Biden's, because you'd rather keep him like that than have Kamala. I'm telling you,
crazy.
She's just so dangerous and much younger. So it's not like she has the potential to stick around a lot longer. Guys, please, you want to get on over. If we can put the link in the YouTube for the Rokfin, we're gonna start heading on over there. I'll start talking a little bit about what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about what, Pasta?
Well, it was the video we watched the other day. We've been looking at this gentleman for a little while. His name is Dr. Zelenko. And he had this all-encompassing video, really. He's been speaking up as of late. And this guy was in it from the get-go. And he made certain claims about his connections close to the White House, about presenting information about alternative medicines moving forward. So I don't want to say the names of the medicines until we get on over. But we're going to talk about his particular video. We're only going to talk about the first part of it because there's some more research to do on a lot of the information he gave. He gave so much information. Mm-hmm. And so many times as we were listening, fam, we were like, yeah, we were just talking about that the other day. Yeah, we were just talking about that the other day. Oh, my God, this is how this makes sense. This is how that makes sense. So we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to do, I don't want to say necessarily debunking, but we're going to talk about another video that's out there, but another podcaster, a friend of ours, not podcaster, another YouTuber, another independent media guy kind of put out, which was a little bit like a little malarkey-ish. So we're going to kind of talk about that as well. We're just going to put it into perspective of what's going on with the boop boop and everything else. So please get on over to Rokfin. Goodbye, YouTube.
Bye.